morning, and we start with a giggle, we start with love, and so get yourself your drinks and your coffees and your hot chocolates or whatever it is that you want to drink. And what I'm going to do today to start with is I'm going to go down spirit world because you're listening to Spirit Talk with Lizzie today. I have coffee time with Lizzie on Tuesday. But what I want to do really is I want to share what is Spirit Talk with Lizzie and tell you a little bit about my experiences. So this is going to go on probably on to the next Sunday and the next Sunday after. He's going to have a few stories, spirit stories, aggregated to this, because I'm going to tell you about my arrival here on the planet, and I also am going to explain to you about, you know, uh, a few things. But to explain to you, all of this, I need to go and tell you arrival. So arrival. So this basically is to get to when I was born and how and why I speak about spirit and how and why I see as this spiritual, eternal on a journey. Because I don't speak out of other people's experience. I speak about my experience. I don't speak about experiences from all the know-it-alls that they do know it all, but they write books and do this and that. I don't speak about their knowledge because that's their knowledge. I speak my knowledge. I share my knowing, yeah? And my knowing is always growing, but that's all I can do. So, arrival. Before we are born, often we have already experienced much. Sounds, mom talking, singing, dad's talking and singing, including we experience that what is good and bad, the arguments, or in other words, we feel the resonance of all of these sounds, vibrations, positive and negative. Sometimes in sound, other times in feelings. We feel the resonance of those close to us, showing us their feelings of love, acceptance, pain, discomfort, likes and dislikes. Even the comfort of moms and dads loving rubs on tummy turns into an amazing feeling resonance of loving feelings. The protection of the inner world we start our lives in, allowing for it to be an outside event that affects us, but with all the possibilities of change on our day of arrival or soon after. That day, our birthday, a special day in so many ways, filled with chaos, trauma, pain, sounds, confusion, hope, love, expectations, and many, many more feelings, thoughts, and emotions. It is so different for everyone because we are all different and experience everything from another perspective that carries our own experiences, belief systems, knowledge about ourselves, and many other commitments that affect our or have an effect on how we perceive our experiences and that what surrounds us. Our arrival has for us a different meaning, feeling, expectations, emotion, etc., to those we arrive to. Our parents, family, etc. all see, feel, and experience it from a different perspective. More often than not, it is an effect of the sum of all our experiences up to that moment all the memories, good and bad, are often rekindled on times like that, where a change happens in our lives, often accompanied by a sense of fear of the unknown. A new life, a new journey, all full of the new, out of our comfort zone. None of it is good or bad. It just is. I arrived. On my birthday, I arrived. Both my mom and I were in danger. When I was born, I was stillborn. I was purple and black. I was not breathing. My mom was nearly dying herself. So as I was born, as I came into this world, this little body was just there, laying there, as they were resuscitating my mom and also me. So there was this great chaos, this great happening going on. And there was I, above it all, in spirit, looking upon all what was happening. I was indeed having an outer body experience or a near death experience. That was my arrival. There was no fear. There was nothing but excitement. I had just arrived. I was in no way or form dead. I was fully alive. I was so alive and so filled with joy that none of that, what I was looking back onto, was affecting me in a bad way. So I knew that there was nothing I could do there. I could look upon it. There was nothing I could do. I could just hang around there, but I decided to go and discover and explore the new place I had arrived upon. So my spirit was filled with joy because I was here on this journey. Expecting or not, I wasn't. I know it was no expectation. It was just it. Yes. So I went and explored and I looked around. And there was these great big hallways with great big windows and the sun was shining in. There were nurses and doctors and I could see their clothes and their headgear. I went further and looked into the dorms where other patients and mothers and other people were laying in their beds, and I could see all the hustle and bustle. None of them, none of it affected me in any way or form. There was no death. I was alive and full of life and filled with joy because I had just arrived. The consequence of whatever was happening where I was born in that particular room was not as such just affecting me. As I was doing that, obviously, the doctors and nurses were looking after my mom and me, and suddenly, as they resuscitated me, without a warning, I was pulled into the body. And there I was, upside down, all purple. Slaps were giving on my bum. And you arrive to a few slaps and the clearing of your throat, etc., and a crying out of I am here ensued. Lizzie was born. So, as you can hear, I retained full memory of my arrival. Not many people do. or some do, but do not retain the memory. Often being born can be a traumatic event as such, because you come from one realm to the other, from one experience to the other, and you pretty much come down with a bang, because you've also been in that inner world, inner place where it is your mom's tummy, which is again is an in-between stage. So as I was born, that first happened. And for many months I retained memory. And I remember all the way up to the 6 months, I retained a huge amount of memory. And my mind was as clear as anything. I could hear people speak and talk, and I fully understood every single word, every single thing that was going on. I remember being on a blanket in the kitchen, on the floor, whilst people were doing things and talking. And I was watching from a different perspective, of course. Yes. And then after 6 months, something happened and I become a baby. I truly became that baby because I was becoming the condition, the conditioning of us. Yeah, that happens as you grow. It happens straight away as you are being born. But because of what happened to me, maybe some of it was held back. So as 6 months arrived, I started to lose that memory, uh, and started to become this baby, because I suppose to a certain point, had to become the blank canvas for the learning of speech, for the learning of the environment I had arrived onto. So as you get the speech and as you get the conditioning through everyone else's belief, then you start taking on conditioning and start taking on the many masks that become you, that you accept as you. So, yes, we are amazing beings. And yes, we are spirit, soul, eternal on this most amazing journey. And yes, it is important to share this. It is important to share it with love, because through my experience and hundreds and thousands of other people out there that have such experiences too. They may have it as from birth, or they may have it later on in life, where they have a near death experience and they experience the spirit side of life, because I actually uh, often give death a different name. I call it life continuum, because there is life and there is life continuum. It's a continuation of life in a different format. Yes, when you move on, when Lizzie moves on, that particular life in that body, yes, has got a finite time. But the spirit soul eternal is a soul spirit eternal on a journey of love and knowledge. And that is who we truly are. The remembrance of who we truly are is truly important for us to be able to stand in the power of whom we are. When we realize who we truly are, and when we remember that, then we can step out of fear, we can step out of the drama and stand in the power of whom we are, and then make the choices now to move forward in a different direction, in a different direction of what it has been given, of the format that is fake that has been given to us. It's okay, we all have been through it, including myself. From the moment I started to be to learn to fit into society, to be conditioned, and then to condition myself, because we all want to be accepted. We want to be accepted by our parents, by our family, by our brothers and sisters, by our friends, by the people at school, the people at work, and so on. As you grow older, you yourself start conditioning yourself, and they condition you too, by ways of fear and by many other ways. And of course, this does not necessarily come out of evil. No, everyone is experiencing this conditioning, and there are different levels of conditioning. So it is important to comprehend these kind of things. And I say comprehend because I'm trying to move from the word understand, because we do not need to stand under anyone. We need to comprehend and to get to know ourselves. Know ourselves is important. Only by knowing that whom we are, we take power onto ourselves. So, as I'm explaining this, I also will tell you many other stories in the next 2 or 3 Sundays of spirit, uh, things that I've experienced, things that I've shared already, and some that I will still be sharing. They include myself, they include other people, but they are all important for the explanation and for the path that we are on at this moment in our lifetimes. Because if we want to be the change, it starts from within. And if we want to be the change, you cannot change others, you can only change yourself. But by sharing sometimes your experiences, and by sharing sometimes your love, yeah, you may be able to give someone the ability for them to make the choice to make the change. So you start making a change from the heart, mind, coherence, from the state of being that of whom you truly are, and the knowing of whom you truly are. So it is a remembrance of whom we are. This is what today and the next few Sundays are going to be about. Okay, so I'm going to move on because I've had through lifetime many different out of body experiences, and they come in different formats. Out of body experiences whilst I'm asleep, out of body experiences, like I explained, a near death experience, out of body experiences through meditation. There are many out of body experiences, but nevertheless, they all have a link, and that link is spirit, soul, the spirit that lives within this most beautiful gift given to us by Creator, by God, whatever you want to call it, oneness, yes? And this beautiful body that we have is our vehicle, which we should really treat with respect, is our temple, whatever you want to call it, it's fine by me. Body, temple, vehicle, but it just is. And it is beautiful, and you have it for X amount of years. Yes, it's like a spacesuit. Yes, it is beautiful. Yes. So I'll move on to my next experience. And this next experience, and although I had quite a few experiences prior to this one, but I cannot tell them everyone. I cannot tell all of them, I mean. So I'll tell you the next one, which is at about the age of 6. And about the age of, actually between 5 and 6, I started to have these very vivid dreams. And these very vivid dreams were about a house, the land surrounding it, a cobbled pathway leading to a um, well. I could smell the roses that were surrounding the well because it was, the old wells made out of stone with a metal arch where you had the bucket hanging onto, and you then pulled the water. Yes. So I had the sequences of dreams, and every day I would come closer and closer and closer to that well. Now, before I go on, I have to explain to you that in no way or form I knew of the existence of any of this prior to my dream. And I'll explain later after this story what I mean with that. So, after a few dreams, I walked continuously on this cobblestone and I saw this white house, one floor, a long house, old um, um, tiles, beautiful trees, uh, hot sun. I could have the whole experience, including the smell of the roses, as I explained to you. And by that well was this beautiful lady with very, very long black hair, shining, straight black hair. I never saw her face until I came up close. But every night I came closer, and then the night in the morning I'd wake up, and next night I'd fall asleep and started off the dream where I stopped. So one night, of course, I started to dream closer. And as I was walking and got closer and closer to this well, this amazing well, this lady that was pulling water from it. With one hand, she swept away her hair, which like in a sort of amazing slow motion, I could see her hair flowing in midair. Very beautiful, dark, shiny black hair. And she looked up. And as she looked up, she looked straight to me. And with a smile in her eyes and a huge smile on her face, she looked up on me and said, "Hello, I have been waiting for you." And as she said that, I woke up. I must have been about 6 years at this point. And at that point, I felt very strong about this dream. And I walked to the kitchen. I was looking for my mom. And I went and tell her, "Mom, I have this dream. I keep having this dream." And she was doing kitchen stuff as moms do, cooking and all that. And as I explained to her the experiences that I had been having, it was like she herself had moved in time, and her face changed and everything about her changed. And as I told her and explained how this lady looked like and what she said to me, my mum sat down with a bang. She looked amazed and she looked terrified. She looked a bit of everything in one go. And with a surprised look in her face, she looked at me and said, "You just described your grandma and the land and the house where I was born and grew up. round about a similar age that you are now. How on earth did you know that? Okay, so now I explain to you why my mom was so scared. And my mom, obviously, very religious. So she had an extra big dose of conditioning about this kind of stuff. And also, my grandma passed into spirit, passed away when my mom was 9 years old. So my grandma died a few years after, uh, you know, uh, when she was 9 years old, basically. So my experience was something that my mom herself also had experienced. Yes, the smell of the roses, my grandma, her mom then, uh, doing what she was doing, etc. But of course, for my mom, that was horrifying. The fact that I was telling her all of that because my mom, due to a lot of trauma and a lot of conditioning and a lot of her own problems, had never told me this story, had never told me any of these things because she herself had a lot to deal with on the side of compartmentalization, on the side of trauma, etc. And for her, she never overcome uh, such things. And of course, religion also played a big role in that, being scared of spirit, being scared of what people like to call ghosts, etc. So for her, that was kind of awe mixed with awe and horror. Yes, that didn't bide very well for me. I ended up in a convent because of that. And I can tell you it was not a nice experience for me. But of course, it was a little bit seen as, well, I had the devil in me. And I laugh. I laugh because, I cannot blame or point or accuse my mom. She herself had conditioning and fear and trauma and many things to surpass. Yes. I, because of my experience, I, because of being able and having the honor to retain the memory of spirit soul. Yes. Because of that, as a child, I looked upon it with no judgment. I looked upon it with no fear. It was just something I was experiencing. Again, this is all important, and I share these things with you because if with my sharing your heart opens, if with my sharing of these experiences your heart mind coherence start opening up in awareness of that whom you are, of the remembrance of that whom you are, then I'm already helping. Yes. As I say, I cannot change anyone and am never going to uh, try and change anyone. It is not my place to. But it is something that I am driven to do is to share my experiences, share my love, share my little bit of knowing, which is only a little bit. But indeed, I feel that, yes, I know that I am spirit, soul, eternal. You are spirit, soul, eternal. You, me, we are all this. Now, of course, we all have different levels of our existence. We all have different levels of our awareness, different levels of our knowing. Yes? Levels are not better or worse. Yes, doesn't mean I am better than anyone or anyone is better than me. There, it is just simply that, just different levels. Levels is things that we ascertain here in this plane of survival, in this plane of living, in this beautiful Mother Earth, Mother Gaia, who brings in many experiences for us to remember that we are love, that we are spirit soul, and that we are here experiencing. So knowing thyself is important. Remembering that whom we are is important. And also, we ask each other, when in spirit, to remind each other of whom we are. And some of us, many of us, actually remember that and say, remind me when we are in the planet. Remember when we are in Mother Earth having an experience. Remind me who I am, where I came from. Or give me a hint so I can then go on my path of exploring. So that is what we do. That is indeed what we do. We are beautiful beings. We have so much going for us. And yes, fear is something given to us. It is a tool given to us, but we can use that tool to our advantage. When we do not know ourselves, fear is a tool used against us. Yes, can be used against us. And therefore, we become souls in shackles. Okay? So, part of these experiences and part of my sharing is all important in that sense. Due to my sharing, you may suddenly click in remembrance of whom you are. So, as I have a sip, and let me see the time. Okay, I have a little bit of time. So, what I'll do is I'll tell you one more of these experiences, and then we'll see how much time we have. So, forward just a little bit, and roundabout again, age 6, 7. Uh, I was still at home. I had this amazing experience where I was asleep. Yes. So I went to sleep. I fell asleep, and suddenly I was with my back against the ceiling, looking back at myself. My body was asleep. Yes, my body was asleep. But we, as spirit soul, when body is asleep, doing the very important job it is doing, when bodies are asleep, they are uh, fixing themselves through rest, through a variety of meanings that the body has of self-restoring. So it's resting, it's self-restoring, etc. But spirit soul does not necessarily need to do that. So I found myself looking back, and there was I asleep. I suddenly had the realization of what was happening and had this great big smile happen on my face. Actually, it happened in spirit soul and happened on my sleepy body. I suddenly had this great big smile, and suddenly, zoom, this spirit soul of mine went off and explored out there into the world, into the big wide world. I knew I could explore. I knew I could be in no time anywhere, because in spirit soul there is not the time frame that we experience in body. So I literally mean in no time. I could be here and I could be across the world in no time. Yes. And that is exactly what I went to do. I knew there is a silver cord attached to me and to my spirit. I knew there was a protection ring around me, keeping me safe. I knew that I was safe to do my exploring. So I went without a worry. I went without fear. And off I went into the big wide world, exploring. Yes, this is so amazing because I could be anywhere in no time, everywhere. Yes, this will bring me to many other stories. All true, no fiction, all true. All true stories of Lizzie Spirit Talk. Yeah, Spirit Talk with Lizzie. This is why I created Spirit Talk with Lizzie, because I was pushed in a certain way by Spirit to share much of this, because I, me, you, we, we all are this. I am not exceptional. We are all of this. A question: how many of you have had a dream that you were somewhere, either flying or you were somewhere, and then you woke up with a bang as if you were falling from somewhere, and you suddenly wake up with a jolt? How many of you have had this? That is spirit soul coming very clumsy back into your body. Yes, sometimes it happens clumsy because something happens around you that pulls you sort of in a way, and it comes bangs and you have that feeling of vertigo back into your body. Batang! And you wake up with that sort of feeling as if you just fell from a great height, or um, you're still sweating and everything. It makes you have that feeling as if you were flying, or you may not remember a feeling as if you were flying, but you definitely remember that falling back on the bed or about to fall out of bed, but you weren't truly because you were in bed. How many of you have had that experience? So, many of us experience these things, but many of us do not know how to put these experiences together and to realize what truly is happening. Okay, I know that there is not a huge amount of time, so I'm not going into another story today. This is going to run through a few of the Sunday um, stories of Spirit Talk with Lizzie.